We're really excited at the Michael Vollbracht auction ending this next Monday. Michael was an internationally known fashion designer, illustrator, artist, and just an interesting fellow. And we have items directly from his estate, including a bunch of oil paintings, and these are huge. I'm holding my phone at basically eye level, and that's in the hallway here at the office, and you can see that those are both well taller than I am, so they're more than 6 feet tall. We'll get to White Feather in a second. Great graphic qualities to his art. Just bold brush strokes, bold images. He also did collages that we have a bunch of, and they're very intriguing. And then, again, a lot of these are larger scale. I'll go through the entire house. We also have clothing of his and runway pieces like this button coat. It's really more of almost a piece of folk art. All these buttons applied to this coat. It was at the runway, at least one of his runway shows I found pictures online of. Great piece. White Feather is probably one of my most favorite paintings we've sold in a long time. It's just such a graphic, bold statement piece that just never tires. Very contemporary. A lot of these paintings he did in the last 10, 15 years, so it's not a little bit unusual that it's contemporary. This is one of the pieces from his lines over back in the 80s and 90s. This is Cat and Mouse, sequins, kind of fun piece, quilted fabric. He also collected vintage pieces like this Yves Saint Laurent piece from 1959. It is absolutely threadbare. It is pinned to the dress form which sells with it. But a great piece of vintage couture. Nice Japanese obi. Really like that little painting there as well. What do we have in this other room? Don't think we have. We also obviously have stuff for our next auctions displayed. We also have several studies that later became fabrics, like this cat with bow tie. And there's a couple more around the corner I'll show you. These are all mainly on like artist board. But they're all painted by Michael as studies for fabrics that would later become clothing items. More of his artwork, more of his paintings. Really like the Girl with Rooster. And again, the scale on these is bigger. Please read the descriptions and the measurements to get a really good idea of how large these pieces are. You know, Michael, and his people have thought this would be great above a bar. It just has that great graphic Art Deco almost look to it. Another fabric study. Then he did, like, this is an antique Chinese robe that he mounted to this jacket and added sequins to give it his, he just was inspired to do something else with it. Again, threadbare, but it's a neat piece. Probably the smallest piece of artwork by Michael in the auction. A couple more of the collages. Really dig the sunflower. You see the bright, bold colors he made clothing with back in the 80s and 90s. Here's the Marlene Dietrich. This piece was featured in his book, Nothing Sacred. The jewelry in the auction is interesting in that it was all Iris Apfel's jewelry. She wore these pieces and gave them to Michael. And then Michael actually used them in his Tattered and Torn exhibition. You can see them in pictures online from different places he used. There's another pen. We saw that, I think, on a jacket. And both of these folios, this cardboard one, both of these folios are full of drawings and paintings and studies. And you can see that they're full. And again, check out the measurements. Most of these are on board, as you can see, like artist board. But like, check out this. What's this one? Flowers and so a lot of neat stuff. And then there's a small amount of fabric for clothing. Some is Michael's lines, some isn't. Sequined pieces. Then a couple of vintage, look like circus costumes that are really quite fun and interesting. This piece here, Michael says, was worn by Mary Martin when she performed for Queen Elizabeth. Big cape, with the Michael Vollbracht tag in it. Custom-made suede skirt. More vintage pieces. Here's a couture piece, tulips. Those are all beaded. Fortunately, that one's got some pretty major staining going on. Another vintage dress here. This piece has an old Bill Blass tag on it. Bergdorf Goodman. The story that Michael told is that he designed this for Oprah and that she wanted it in orange for an awards show. And this one here is probably the coolest thing. It's called African Shield, and the supermodel Iman wore this at, and you can see there's a picture of it from a Vogue magazine from the early 80s. So a lot of great, interesting, fun pieces from the auction. I'm going to head back to the front room here and look at these big pictures one more time, because I think they're the most powerful and most interesting. And what a great way to kind of remember Michael. He's from Kansas City originally, but great thing to have. I just love this white feather. Again, just a really powerful piece and ready to be hung in your house. So thanks for watching. Make sure you tell your friends about this if you're not interested. Think somebody might be, and let us know if you have any questions.